In this video, I'm going to be talking about the cell membrane and the negative effects of what happens if it's rigid. Also, why it's important for the membranes to be fluid when it comes to immune cells interacting with cancer cells to attack and engulf the cancer cells or pathogens. So, cell membranes are basically lipid bilayers where the receptors they uh, they have to encounter the ligands. So the ligand is like on the cancer cell, and the the receptor on the cell membrane of the immune cell has to interact with or recognize the ligand or to connect or bind onto the ligand on the cancer cell so that the immune cell can attack the cancer cell or induce apoptosis or programmed cell death on the cancer cell. When the cell membranes are rigid, the movement of receptors is restricted, receptors cannot cluster effectively, and also the probability of encountering ligands on cancer cells or pathogens decreases. The immune consequence, fewer receptor ligand interactions, therefore weaker initiation of immune responses. Okay, now I'm going to talk about eat me signals and phagocytosis, which is like the engulfing attack of the macrophage. So there's an eat me signal, such as calreticulin, or CRT for short, and then facile are exposed on apoptotic or stressed signals to trigger clearance or phagocytosis by phagocytes such as macrophages. So the calreticulin, the CRT on the cancer cell, binds to the phagocyte or the macrophage receptor, like LRP1 or CD91, to initiate the engulfment to get rid of the cancer cell that is exposing the calreticulin or the CRT. But there are effects of rigid membranes. If the target cell's membrane is rigid, a CRT or facile may cluster less efficiently, reducing the probability that phagocytes or macrophages can detect them. That's the effect of rigid membranes. So if the macrophage can't detect them because of rigid membranes, then the macrophage cannot clear the pathogen or the cancer cell. So on the phagocyte side, or the macrophage or neutrophil, the rigid membranes can limit receptor mobility, the receptor on the macrophage or neutrophil. So eat me recognition is slower or incomplete. So the eat me signal is basically the signal that the macrophage gets or receives from the cancer cell or pathogen. The signal is sent by the calreticulin or any other ligand on the cancer cell. So the ligand sends the signal to the macrophage or neutrophil, and that's how they attack or apoptosis or phagocytosis engulfing. So the result of rigid membranes is impaired clearance of apoptotic cells, accumulation of cellular debris, because that's what macrophages and neutrophils do. They go around cleaning up debris, kind of like trash, cellular trash in the body. And if that debris is not cleared, then that can lead to problems such as senescent cells, or they're like zombie cells. But that's beyond the scope of this video. And even impaired clearance of cells or dead cells and cellular trash is also potential for autoimmunity. Autoimmunity is basically where the excessive T cells are attacking the healthy body tissue. So another issue or problem with rigid membranes is it also disrupts the CD70, CD27 axis, which is between the T cell and the antigen presenting cell, not the tumor cell. So tumor cells and cancer cells, they also have CD70. So that would be bad if it was binding to the CD27 on the T cell. But CD70 on the APCs, or antigen presenting cell, is actually good because that binding of the CD70 on the APC on the CD27, that allows the T cell to be activated and trained, because naive T cells, they can't go untrained. If they are untrained, then they can't battle it out with cancer cells. So rigid membranes, they actually, the CD70 mobility on APCs is reduced. Therefore, fewer CD27, CD70 interactions. So that means that T cells are going to be weak and untrained. As a result of the rigid membranes, reduced T cell expansion and survival, so less T cells. That could be good for autoimmunity to prevent the healthy tissue being attacked, but not good when it comes to cancer metastasis. Also, another consequence is weaker adaptive responses to infection or tumor antigens. Okay, some nutrients are taken up via the receptors, mediated endocytosis, but membrane rigidity can interfere with this as well. Also, what can cause membrane rigidity is high saturated fats. So saturated fatty acids like palmitate, they pack tightly in the lipid bilayer, therefore reduced membrane fluidity, and then leading to membrane rigidity. Now here's the relevance of nutrient receptor effects or the effects of rigid membranes on the receptor taking up nutrients. So there is on the T cells can take up vitamin D via the vitamin D receptor. Of course, T cell cannot do so if the membranes are rigid. Reduced uptake if endocytosis is impaired. On the lymphocytes and macrophage function, there's also impaired iron internalization due to iron transferrin receptor, CD71. So that receptor for iron is also rigid, and then lower proliferation of macrophages as a result. So that means that macrophages, they can't go around to clean up dead cells, cellular trash, dead cancer cells, pathogens, because that's basically what macrophages do. They're like the quiet janitor of the immune system. Also, another receptor that can get rigid and therefore being impaired is GLUT1 and GLUT3. Those are glucose transporters or receptors. They supply glucose as energy for T cells. And that's not good if T cells cannot get energy from either receptor as a result of being rigid, especially in the tumor hostile environment where the tumor is soaking up glucose, so therefore leaving no glucose for T cells, also stealing arginine away from T cells as well, because arginine also, there's also a receptor for that too. And if the receptors are rigid, then the T cells are going to have no supply or no energy supply to be able to proliferate and function to attack cancer cells. All the while, tumors are getting fuel sources from glucose, fatty acids, amino acids, arginine, tryptophan. So that's why it's important to make sure to not allow the membranes, the cell membrane, to become too rigid that the receptors don't function. So that's it for the video. If you're interested in more future videos, then make sure to like, comment, and share these videos with your friends and family. And keep it locked in here on this channel, and I'll see you in the next video.